En un tiempo anterior a los titanes, anterior a los dioses del Olimpo, tuvo lugar una gran batalla. La ira de los primordiales los seres que forjaron la tierra estalló fuera de control durante una eternidad. Y de esta cólera, de esta demencia de guerra, nacieron las furias. Ni titanes ni dioses, ni mortales ni sombras. Las furias no obedecían a nadie, porque eran guardianes de honor. Los encargados de hacer cumplir los castigos, la perdición de los traidores. Cuando Zeus asumió el poder, se dio cuenta de que tenía poco que temer de las hermanas. Las furias tomaban represalias solo con aquellos a quienes consideraban culpables. El primero de estos culpables fue Geón de los hecatónquiros. Cuando el bruto hizo un juramento de sangre con Zeus, solo para traicionar al rey de los dioses más tarde, las furias actuaron rápidamente. Las hermanas buscaron a Geón sin descanso y una vez capturada la criatura, lo torturaron sin piedad. Porque las furias creían que matarlo sería ser demasiado bueno para el perjurador. Geón el hecatónquiro se convirtió en un ejemplo para todos. Un símbolo especial para aquellos que osaran pensar en romper un juramento de sangre con Dios.
Lo siento, espartano. Cuando supe que mis madres estaban cerca, vine a advertirte.
Tenemos planes especiales para ti, hijo mío.
Todo este esfuerzo y tú sigues fallando. Vamos, hermanas. Lo haremos pedazo dentro de las paredes de Catónquiros.
Kratos se encontró derrotado, y esta vez ningún olímpico vendría en su ayuda. Satisfechas, las hermanas regresaron a su hogar con su premio. Dentro de las paredes de su prisión, podían ahondar en el alma destrozada del guerrero y atraer a Kratos de vuelta a su lugar como sirviente de Ares.
Ha pasado mucho tiempo.
Nunca más.
Puedes verla en la mañana. Ven.
Con el tiempo olvidarás. Todo lo que has perdido volverá a ser tuyo. Si esto es lo que te mantendrá al servicio del señor Ares, entonces esto es lo que obtendrás.
Es solo una ilusión.
La ilusión puede ser tu realidad.
Lo más difícil ha terminado, espartano. Has cometido el máximo sacrificio. Entrégate a nosotras por completo y tendrás una vida de dichosa ilusión.
Nunca.
Entonces deja que la muerte sea tu realidad. ¿Qué significa esto? Has hecho una mala elección, espartano.
Una simple baratija no nos vencerá, hermana.
¿Tú me desafías? No eres más que un mortal.
Debiste haber aceptado nuestra oferta, Kratos. Ahora vas a pagar por ese error.
¡Soy la reina de las furias!
Si tus hermanos muestran piedad. No hay modo de escapar.
espartano!
No eres lo que Ares esperaba.
Avergüenzas a Esparta, perjurador.
Tú te provocaste esta maldición.
Avergüenzas a Esparta, perjurador.
Tú te provocaste esta maldición.
No eres digno de llamarte espartano. ¡Perdí todo por tu culpa!
No estaban allí por casualidad, Kratos. Crees que deseas la verdad, pero la verdad solo te traerá dolor. Mi muerte no te liberará de esta locura.
No hubiera tenido la fuerza suficiente para elegir tu camino, espartano.
Orcos,
Hubiera elegido lo que mis madres ofrecieron.
preferiría vivir en la verdad.
Temo que puedas lamentar tus palabras. El señor Ares aún retiene tu lazo.
Esto no puede ser.
Antes de que las mataras, mis madres hicieron que fuera una vez más tu guardián de los juramentos. Para ser libre, debes matarme.
No lo entiendo.
Si no me liberas, mi padre seguirá teniendo poder sobre ti. Aún peor, viviré en eterno tormento.
Ya he derramado suficiente sangre inocente.
No hay otra manera, espartano. Quebranta el juramento. Mata a Ares. Y véngate. Nunca fui el guerrero que mi padre quiso que fuera. Pero por favor, lo único que pido, dame una muerte honorable.
Con la muerte de Orcos, el juramento de sangre con Ares finalmente se rompió. Y la dolorosa verdad regresó a la mente de Kratos. La verdad de los asesinatos cometidos. La muerte de su esposa e hija. la carnicería causada por su implacable ambición. Emergió con total claridad y se convirtió en visiones que lo atormentarían por el resto de sus días. Ahora libre de la locura de las últimas, pero aún torturado por la verdad de su pasado, Kratos abandonó el único hogar que había conocido y emprendió su viaje para deshacer todo lo que había causado.
Todd Pappy, Game Director, God of War Ascension. What you're about to see is a making of video that Hi, I'm Todd Pappy, Game Director, God of War Ascension. What you're about to see is a making of video that we've been shooting over about 2+ years. It gives you a good idea of the inception of an idea all the way through to the final product. Keep in mind that this is a work in progress. Enjoy.
Welcome back. I'm seeing a lot of fresh faces. Just kind of wanted to give you guys a high-level view of what I've been thinking. Basically, we've been trying to take God of War and really distill it down to an essence. God of War has always been a single-player game, so the mandate on this one is it is a multiplayer game.
I think the biggest challenge by far is transferring a purely single-player, well-developed, third iteration title into a network multiplayer world. It's shocking.
That's what's new, exciting, unknown, and where we want to make a mark in the industry.
It was absolutely terrifying to work on this technology without a safety rope. We didn't know if it was going to work. We bet the farm on it early. Frankly, if it didn't work, I probably wouldn't be here talking with you now.
I mean, it's heartbreaking, as we in the early stages, and you're like sitting there, you're toiling at your computer day and night, like, yeah, this is gonna be great. And it is just like, it might not be great.
We've never done it before, so we don't know what we're doing.
Come on, die. All of you die.
We've kind of gone from scratch to this, basically. Right now, what we have is the bare minimum, what we need, but at least we've got it in. Everything is kind of hanging together by sticky tape, really. It's so new to us, all this stuff. We're nowhere near bulletproof yet. Given how much scrutiny multiplayer goes under once normal people start playing it out in the real world, it's invaluable because we're making so many changes, we're iterating on it so much, we're trying to find out what makes God of War multiplayer fun.
All right.
Whitney really is in first place right now. She has the most kills, and she's never played before.
Believe it, Ariel.
The hit reactions over the network trump the circle reactions.
Yes.
And you want the circle reactions to take priority.
Circle reaction trumps everything.
Okay, I can fix that for you.
Okay.
Totally.
Cool.
I died off the spawn. So basically I spawned and then immediately fell off the pillar.
We completely rewrote the way that attack collisions work, and we flipped from the old method over to the new method, and nobody noticed the difference. The reason why I'm so happy is because it's the very first step towards us hiding latency in the game.
That's a good sign. It's a good that everyone didn't go, oh my god, it's horrible. So that's encouraging, although we know we've got a lot of work to do on that. It's a challenge every week, but considering where we were 3 months ago, it's a revelation.
We don't want to try to lose our essence. When a person plays it, they need to feel God of War. And so that's been the thing that is still ongoing right now.
I am excited for multiplayer. My day normally is comprised of meetings after meetings after meetings, but at night, from 5 to 6:30, I get to play multiplayer. I actually like building up rivalries with the other people I'm playing against and start hunting them down and trying to kill them or them over.
Nah, son of a. I think a lot of the unique aspects come from the kills, and you can kill people in a number of different ways. You can use traps to kill them, you can sacrifice them, you can hunt them down and become their nemesis. That's one thing that players will see that's very God of War, and it's different to any other game, is the brutality we involve in multiplayer.
The first playtest, we're literally just looking for, can the player get from point A to point B and know where they're going.
I think that it'll be surprising for people to see and hopefully will meet and exceed people's expectations.
We're really excited because this is the first time anybody has seen God of War multiplayer. We've been working pretty hard on it. It's actually a really good time to start putting it in people's hands.
Playtests are always nerve-wracking. Day of playtest, I hate it. I pull out my hair. I get very frustrated, just because I expect it to go a certain way, and it never goes that way.
You're never happy, or you're never ready for people to actually see it.
There's going to be quite a few surprises that keep us up at night, probably for a couple days afterwards.
We forgot to put the prompt for the cranks.
The thing that I'm kind of like nervous about is people actually getting and understanding the concept right off the bat. Because I mean, we are doing something that's very different, and we're throwing a lot at you at once.
To see them enjoying those moments, it makes all that hard work worth it. Hi, I'm Todd Pappy, Game Director, God of War Ascension. What you're about to see is a making of video that we've been shooting over about 2+ years. It gives you a good idea of the inception of an idea all the way through to the final product. Keep in mind that this is a work in progress. Enjoy. Got our press announce coming up. It's all about spectacle. There's going to be plenty of smoke and mirrors, just making sure that what the press is seeing is exactly what we want them to see. We've got something unique on our hands. Nobody else has our combat system, yet alone the ability to do scale. Press announce is basically our stake in the ground and saying, look, this is what this game's gonna look like.
The big reveal is like, hey, this is what Sony Santa Monica's working on. If we're doing something a little bit different, normally we do single player. We're gonna actually wind up teasing the players by actually showing a multiplayer instead.
It will be very scripted and staged because the press will be watching one main screen. We'll all be live players actually demoing the game.
Choreographing 8 players is going to be a pain in the Everybody ready? All right, they're going. Making sure that everybody's in their spot when they need to be and it doesn't look silly. There'll be tons and tons of rehearsals. Orbs are getting reset, man.
Everybody's split up. It's not like everybody's stuck in the same spot.
The actual art is really far along.
Hey, Jess.
Yeah?
We got to get shadows underneath the ropes.
As soon as we announce the title, people are going to be expecting something big. I think with this, though, I was just so harried to give them something. I didn't worry about it so much. So now I'm worrying about it in the aftermath. He's done, he's in the game, and I'm like, ah.
As one of the artists, I always want the press or the public to go, wow, those graphics are awesome.
We've got a Titan in a level with 8 players, and hopefully people are looking at this going, this is awesome. They took God of War and they translated it to multiplayer, and this is their idea for what they're going to do in multiplayer. And I hope they see that and go, you know what, they didn't just stop. We pushed the envelope.
That's first impression. It's like dating. It's just like, how many times have you gotten a second date after a bad first impression? That's the rule.
How about your part? Are you ready to talk to the press?
No, not. I want to go through one more media training. I want to get a little bit more comfortable with it. But it's usually once I get my spiel down, then I'm a lot more comfortable. Right now, I'm nervous. We're at the lot in Hollywood doing our press events. I've been up since 3. Tired. We're going to show off multiplayer today to the press, and hopefully everything goes well and they enjoy it.
I think it's harder when a game's been running for a long time for it to transform itself. Whether they can pull it off, I'm interested to see.
There's a bunch of us talking about it right now and wondering what we're going to see. So, I think we're all excited to see what's going to go on in there.
Kratos is
Probably the #1 seller of our magazine, so it'll be good to have him back on our cover at some point.
Leveling up and progression, over a long period of time.
Brutal combat, brutal kills. This is definitely new for me. Like, I'm not used to talking to press. I'm not a fan of being in front of the camera, but at the same time, I'm a fan of talking to other fans or trying to explain what's going on.
We're always under evolution, so yeah. Hi everyone, it's great to have you. Thanks for coming from all around the world.
A media event like this is really critical. This is an opportunity for the team to really come together for a big event and show all the hard work that's being put into the product.
I'm sure we can get questions about single player, and we're not talking about it today. And then with multiplayer, why the are you adding multiplayer to this awesome single player game? I think that's why we did this announce and really focused on the multiplayer, is so that will squash any of those questions, because we can say, look, that is why we did it.
So we worked really hard to make sure that this was live. We weren't going to screw around. We weren't going to show a video. There's actually guys playing back there. They all have a dev kit directly at their feet, a little tiny television. Originally, we were going to have 8 screens set up in the front, and then at some point we were realizing that that would take people's focus. They're going to be watching that guy and they're going to be watching that guy. Really, we wanted to have them be able to focus on one thing all at once as one cinematic presentation. So that's why we ended up having all the guys up in the back. Todd really wanted to have the multiplayer slowly unfold. So we start with the half-face shot, but he's really in shadow. And then the guy steps into the light, puts on his helmet, and it's clearly not Kratos. So we start by unfolding, hey, you're playing somebody you're not used to playing in this God of War prequel. And then as you're fighting Cyclops, second guy jumps in. Wait a second, it's a co-op game. There's 2 players. And then when you go into the main arena, that's when we reveal that there's actually 8 guys fighting, because there's already 6 guys waiting in the arena for you. That was important to us, to be able to let people kind of slowly reveal that there was going to be more than just one person.
Excellent run through, guys. Excellent run through. Hi, I'm Todd Pappy, Game Director, God of War Ascension. What you're about to see is a making of video that we've been shooting over about 2+ years. It gives you a good idea of the inception of an idea all the way through to the final product. Keep in mind that this is a work in progress. Enjoy.
You are on one of 2 teams fighting over the chance to slaughter this giant Cyclops that we have nicknamed Megalops, a Mega Cyclops. And there's been some debate, it's Megalops, not Megaclops, because Megaclops sounds like a giant horsey.
Megaclops is a terrible misnomer. I'm gonna fight to the bitter end to change his name from Megaclops.
It's been in gestation for quite a while, because it's kind of the sum total of a lot of the stuff that we've been messing around with in the multiplayer mode really for the last, I don't know, what's nearly 2 years.
We need to tighten in the multiplayer to capture the God of War essence and insert it into multiplayer. That's what we need. Some of the early sketches, this guy right here. So this one is a more upright, barrel-chested, more intelligent Cyclops. With gigantic characters, it's always a good idea to find some way to suggest scale. His necklace is made out of human skulls. We moved on to the next step. I didn't really think about it, but he looks like a rock star up on the stage, like going, ah, and that's all Todd could see after I designed it. So I was like, ah. So very close to that is this. One of the biggest challenges in designing Cyclops is to keep them from feeling cartoony. Seeing the white of the eye is what gives it that cartoony quality. I don't know why that is. So this is kind of like a dog eye. So it gives him more of an animalistic, evil quality, I hope. But also I wanted to draw your attention to something that stuck through even from the beginning. The necklace made of human skulls, but this time it literally is a manclass because I added human bodies. I wanted to give the players every hint possible that this thing is horrible. I'm really proud that we got that on the design.
Megaclops is actually Polyphemus, who appears in the Odyssey where Odysseus goes into the cave and they have to stab him in the eye. And that's how he's been incorporated into the multiplayer. This is the biggest character I've worked on, by far. Here's the full body of him. His lower half was not going to be incorporated. We didn't even build this because we were told that there was going to be a dust storm down there. And this is just kind of how things change around here. So now I had to go back and block in the legs. We're getting in and sculpting every dot and every pore because you get so close. His head and his shoulders and arms are at 11 million polys. We've had to sculpt each individual wrinkle and everything that happens on the hands. When I do start to color him, we can create masks from all of the depth, and then I can paint on top of that. The reds really pop, and then we can get some yellows on the surface of the skin, just make it feel a little more real. Oh, the annoying part was sculpting his decap. What we do for the decap is we have two meshes. So we have his original mesh, which doesn't have any of these wounds on it. When they cut him, we'll swap that out. Once we swap that out, they'll cut down his face and there'll be like a light explosion. And when that explodes, it'll swap to this. What we wanted to do was have that cut go over the edge so it looked more natural. So that's kind of what this is visually representing. And then once the explosion happens, his mouth pretty much split open. His bottom jaw will get cut in half. So we have these little bone bits that are sticking out, little organs and muscle tissue and fat. It's really hard to do because you have all of the ups and downs with the teeth and all that's connected, and it was a huge pain. It took way longer than I thought it would.
First, I was designing a lot of architectures, and once Todd and Chris liked the architecture, then I had to kind of put them into a 3D geometry, which was given to me from level designer. That was kind of hard because everything was made out of a geometry. It was literally just all cubes. And most architectures are not cubes, but I had to come up with a solution to look great. So what you see on the left of my screen are the high vision of sketches, kind of quick kind of color comp. And once they saw this, they kind of like a few of the ideas. This were sent to the level designers, and this is what I got back. Everything was just 2 cube and everything was just all same size. I began to put some of the textures and some of the assets and just kind of try to come up with interesting areas possible. For the final, I kind of took easy design and tried to put them into the scenery. And then I did broke off some of the pieces in here just to make it a little bit more interesting, adding some rounder kind of columns, and this was pretty much the final.
A lot of people, when they play a God of War game, it feels like refined design and Greek and classical, but there's always this edge that's a little bit fantastic. Not fantasy, but it's special and grand. We were always kind of talking like, what is this place? It's just this weird little town in the desert. And so we were kind of talking like, okay, maybe the gods or whoever just chained Polyphemus here. So they added in chain towers with some stands on there so they could watch this sort of battle happen. Maybe we could have some chimneys with smoke coming out of them and some decayed bridges, and some of the buildings are sort of falling apart from previous battles that have happened there. We have these rotundas, sort of gondola tops on top that he can smash. It was definitely really fun to work on.
You have everything feeling kind of brown. The brown rock, you've got sand, which is brownish, you've got wood, ropes. It's hard to see where can you jump as a player. And we really want to highlight some of those edges. So a few strips of color, almost like paint, to help guide the player. It's a kind of a gamey thing, but in the end, if it's going to make the game play better, it's worth sacrificing some of the believability of the world. We're doing things now that we just take for granted that we couldn't have done on God of War 3. Hi, I'm Todd Pappy, Game Director at God of War Ascension. What you're about to see is a making of video that we've been shooting over about 2+ years. It gives you a good idea of the inception of an idea all the way through to the final product. Keep in mind that this is a work in progress. Enjoy.
You look at any other multiplayer experience, how many of them can you say that there's a big world action thing that is interacting with you? That's definitely going to be the more rememberable thing.
The main sort of drive of it is the thrill of the competition over the glory of the kill. It's a custom arena designed to really accentuate the combat, so it's kind of a twofold thing. We've been working a lot on trying to figure out what spaces work really well for combat. Big open spaces don't work, small compact spaces work, but only if you have a limited number of people. All of that has taken a lot of work. This is the test level where I've been working on. As he gets hit, he basically goes into this kind of retreated state. So initially his hands are like kind of this on the platform, and then you do damage and he kind of retreats, and then he's got almost like he's kind of hanging on a little bit to sort of sell the fact that he's a little closer to falling off. And because the idea is the chains are basically holding him in place, but also trying to pull him all the time. They're always trying to pull him away, and that's one thing that the animations don't sell that well yet. So many little things you have to worry about, like when his hands are in the arena here, he has collision around his hands, so you can't just run through his hands. But of course, once his hands drop to the edge, that collision has to turn off, a new collision has to turn on. So many little things like that, just to try and make it feel consistent.
It's been definitely a totally different challenge, like I said, than like actually building single player levels. Before there used to be actual trap down here, but it was just one of those things, just like there was like a trap at one control point, a trap at another control point. It's just like, how about this one control point is just about just fighting, you know, you got objects that you can do special attacks off of, and it's just battling, but there's an uber power up here that, you know, we can be sitting there fighting, it spawns here. It's like, am I gonna stop fighting you and try to get that? Am I gonna try to just knock you away and stun you up against the wall and then try to hurry up and run and grab the point? Things change based off the need of the designs. And it's one of those things, you know, you get this and you see your pitfalls and then you immediately like, oh yeah, you know, let me hurry and get this stuff clean so I can do the next thing, because I know all the mistakes that I've learned, and to make something even doper. And then hopefully, once everything's said and done, boys be at home, it'd be like, long live play, Sony, we love you.
I'm working in conjunction with the other departments, and we're trying to figure out gameplay as we're going along. It's a lot of troubleshooting, like making sure that the rig is functioning correctly, that his animations are appropriate for what we're trying to do in game. You really have to focus on just making sure that he's believably big. So we have to sell the fact that he's heavy. There's a lot of delay on his upper body and his arms. That just gives a sense that he's big and he's very heavy. The emotional range of this character is frustrated, angry, and tired. We don't want the players to feel sorry for him. We always want the players to feel that he's just this ginormous threat in the background, and that you don't want to mess with this guy or he's gonna freaking kill you.
A huge factor is that we need to have the camera not hiding gameplay from the player. A lot of the foreground stuff we want to put in, we just can't put it in. This is one of the areas that was quite challenging for the art team to make it so gameplay is still acceptable. So we wanted to have something kind of in the foreground to break up the levels and make it feel like rooftop. So we also need to have the player be visible. So one of the solutions was add some destruction.
Evolving the camera systems so that they could handle multiplayer gameplay was a very large challenge. It was a fun challenge too, because we knew right off the bat what we needed the camera system to do. You need to make the cameras much more unified, much more procedural, so that everyone has the same fair view. This allows me to start plotting out where my cameras would go. So I'll turn on my camera layer here. This gives you a pretty good idea of how many camera zones are needed. Every black box is basically an individual camera or a group of cameras. These basically control what you see as you play through. What we're seeing here is the basic look of a navigation camera in a multiplayer level. The player is about 20 meters away from the camera, making them kind of small, but big enough to get the details of which team you're on, this guy's on the red team, and give you a good sense of where you're going in the level. Here's an example of a trap where you can hold on to the lever until you're waiting for some enemy to run in, and then you basically let go of R1, triggers the trap, and the camera will hold there to see if you hit anyone. And one other example of something that our single-player camera system has been great for in terms of multiplayer cameras is shots like this, where I'm no longer using the normal navigation camera because this Cyclops is about to attack, and I want to show off full detail of his face, his hand that's about to smash you. That's an area where we're allowed to make the multiplayer cameras feel more single-player. That's another goal of ours, to make the camera system and the game itself feel like it exists in the same space. Keeping the giant Cyclops in frame was one of the biggest challenges of that level because people really want to just fight other players. I'd be fighting my own cinematographer's instinct to, I want to show more of this giant epic monster in the background. It was a constant back and forth of, that's too much of him, that's not enough of him.
Hi, I'm Todd Pappy, Game Director, God of War Ascension. What you're about to see is a making of video that we've been shooting over about 2+ years. It gives you a good idea of the inception of an idea all the way through to the final product. Keep in mind that this is a work in progress. Enjoy.
The lowest level, what we're trying to do is make me playing against you feel right, and me playing with you feel right. That's where we are right now.
I guess we're bringing the God of War gore to killing your mate, basically, I guess.
Killing your mate, yes. Your mate, your buddy. One of the thrilling things about multiplayer, like even in a shooter, is when you get up close, like your heart starts to race. We're definitely trying to go for that.
See the whites of their eyes.
The moves are actually not Kratos moves at all. We did start to get some of it up and running, so you might see some hints of like, oh, maybe I remember from God of War 1, he had a weapon kind of like that, but the moves that we're doing now are entirely Spartan moves, Spartan themed.
The weapons that you carry give them a very distinctive feel.
Each character selects sort of a god class, and that kind of defines what weapons and armor and abilities you can take in. I have basically the Ares sword with the Ares armor, so I can do things like damage attacks, DS kills.
Have a little bit more kind of range, so I have that move that has quite a lot of range to it.
The idea with the hammer is that in a crowd, he can be less specific. Like if you're playing the hammer class, you kind of look for groups of people to kind of jump in there. And that actually causes kind of groups to disperse, which is kind of nice. So depending on like who shows up with what weapon, people start to kind of change their play style a little bit.
Kratos is our hero. He has to be the strongest, the coolest, the most powerful one. These guys are still pretty formidable. These guys have to be fair. Their moves have to be readable. Some of the moves are a little slowed down, so they're not as quick as Kratos, but they have to be fair. For instance, we have unblockable now. Whenever you see this symbol, that means if you block it, you're gonna get staggered. And that really helps to make it read. Each weapon's like its own full character. The navigations, they all have to be redone for every weapon. The attacks are all redone. There's no real sharing between weapons. They're just too unique that you can't really wield them the same. We'll come up with moves based off of usability, practicality, flashiness, just things that people usually expect to see and people would want to see. Sometimes just try and get the best look, and then we'll just tweak and tune it until it's actually useful. This is the Cyclone move. If Kratos did this move, I don't think he'd have this much recovery time, and the startup would be pretty quick. This was one of my favorites, the uppercut. It's pretty useful in games and people are liking it. I just liked it. I reappropriated one of the Olympus Swords animations from God of War 2. That one just stayed in one place and did too, but this one I added a crazy dash to it and a lot more height. There's gonna be a lot of different specials that you're gonna be able to do. Those will be a lot of work to knock out, but I mean, those are fun though. You know, it's just fun doing those.
What's nice about certainly this kind of game is that anyone can kind of get the kill, anyone can kind of come in there and finish it off. You're definitely not invincible. That's one thing we really try to do is that, the characters, they can take some hits, but not a whole bunch, so that even a new character might get in there, and if he gets 1 blow, 2 blows, lands a few, he's definitely going to get the kill, and that's also what traps kind of add for it. With traps, it really doesn't take a whole lot of, timing and skill and reflex. It's literally like it's sort of more planning and strategic element where it's like, I know people want to take this point, I know this trap covers that point. If I can predict that, then I can basically get a kill no matter how skilled the other player is.
Hi, I'm Todd Pappy, Game Director at God of War Ascension. What you're about to see is a making of video that we've been shooting over about 2+ years. It gives you a good idea of the inception of an idea all the way through to the final product. Keep in mind that this is a work in progress. Enjoy.
The biggest problem with multiplayer for us is just technology. We've never done multiplayer before.
In the last year, it felt like another 3 years.
God of War is historically a single-player game, and there's a lot of code that works until you put it in an online environment, and then it falls apart. What I'm doing is basically going through a lot of the code and making sure that we consider what happens when a second person runs the lever code and what happens when a third person pulls the lever. Is everyone seeing the same thing at the same time?
At this moment, I'm feeling hopeful. We aren't quite there yet. There are 2 players on 2 different machines, and one is hitting the other with a sword. So that motion of the sword has to connect on the attacker's machine, and then the result of that collision needs to be sent to the defender's machine, and on defender's machine we need to decide, was that move blocked or parried or countered, and then the response has to go back to the attacker's machine. All of that has somehow to happen in such a way that both of these players think that it is seamless and there is no lag, and it's all just free-flowing combat.
People would press block and they'd actually get the block guard up with the sword, and then they'd be told, you got hit. And they're like, Glenn?
The actual choice of where these decisions are being made, attackers' machines, defenders' machines, that choice is probably the hardest problem of them all.
We do what we call pre-hit. So we actually detect that in the future we're about to hit somebody, and we actually kind of, if you can see like an arc here. So we actually can look ahead maybe 100, 200 milliseconds. And so I'm actually saying, I hit you here, and that actually gets sent over the network. The other guy receives it before my sword's even touched him. And if we time it right, he tends to reply, in the common case, to us before the sword's even touched him on our machine. So we actually have all the lag hidden by committing to the hit early.
One of the big things that felt wrong for so long with the combat was the technical networking side of it, which I think we've finally broken the back of now, haven't we?
We're getting over a hump. It does feel like that.
Fixing the lag.
So we're able to hide about 100 milliseconds, 150 milliseconds of latency. I consider lag to be pretty much a solved problem at this point.
One of the big themes that came out of last week's Friday playtest was that the quality of the experience has a lot to do with the caliber of the people you're playing against.
I focus on matchmaking. Without matchmaking, you won't be able to find your peers. You won't be able to find other players to play. So we basically pair up players so that they can have a better time. The more players we have, the quality of the matchmaking improves. You always have to consider, should we let people play, or should we have a better quality of matchmaking? I'm hoping to have a better matchmaking experience because we have developed everything in the house. We are doing something completely different. We are deploying the code ourselves, and we are managing all aspects of it. So there's no one to call when something happens except ourselves.
Now we're going to actually play sheeted 60. That was started like inefficient, running at 45, and the intention of the playtest is to get the combat feel at 60.
We're playing the game every week. We're making sure that everyone gets a controller in their hands and they start bashing each other with swords and hammers, and it's a lot of fun.
The fact that programmers are playing it is a very positive step. Programmers want to write code, and some don't want to play the game they're making, and that's okay, but when you're making a multiplayer game, it's really important that you iterate and you see the changes you make playtest to playtest.
A few weeks ago we were having issues getting people coming and playing because I think the combat was in a bit of a rough spot. We knocked off a huge number of bugs and suddenly everyone was just more engaged with the game.
We were like floundering, and now we've iterated our way into a good place. So I feel happy about where we've been, and I feel excited about where we're going to end up.
I'm Todd Pappy, Game Director at God of War Ascension. What you're about to see is a making of video that we've been shooting over about 2+ years. It gives you a good idea of the inception of an idea all the way through to the final product. Keep in mind that this is a work in progress. Enjoy.
Level design is a fantasy. It's, I want to do something that I can't do in real life. Level design is also a challenge. It's not easy, it's not handed to me. I feel like I accomplished something when I did it. And in the end, level design is about giving that reward. You want to do it again and again and again and again. Moving to a multiplayer game, we can't take all of the things that we did with single player and think that they're going to work in multiplayer. That involves levels in terms of how you're going to funnel players together while they're playing cooperatively, or how are you going to get players to run routes in a map when they're playing against each other so that they don't all clump up in the same areas.
God of War multiplayer is all about telling the single player experience of God of War in the context of a multiplayer environment. You have the exotic locations, the grand set pieces, the cool mechanical contraptions that you're used to using in God of War, and the lore that takes place in the God of War universe contained in these maps. They're very well thought out, with very high level design and production value.
I think you'd expect that the levels in multiplayer are simpler than the single player, but they're, I'd say, 5 times as complicated. We've got traps, we've got different capture points, 10 different chests, big titans in the background, things like that. There's just so much going on.
I haven't seen a multiplayer out there like our game, and for us, we wanted to make sure that we weren't copying anybody, and it feels like God of War.
We're going to breathe a lot of fresh life into this genre, and we're really creating kind of a whole new multiplayer genre.
The tutorial level that we're gonna have for multiplayer is basically the player's introduction to multiplayer. You're gonna start off as a warrior. You're imprisoned in a location that I cannot name or I'll get killed. Your life is about to flash before your eyes. When that happens, you're summoned to the gods, and the gods teach you how to fight and how to go, bring about glory for them. So how we want to kind of do this is you see like the establishing shot of the actual warrior coming down, and then you wind up seeing, the Zeus out in the foreground. So you're going up to actually go meet with the gods. Obviously, when you're in this point, you won't have your armor, you won't have your weapon, but since you'll have a head. I don't have a head right now. So, right now, I'm just teeth and eyes. There's these statues that represent all the gods in the background. You get prompted to select one of your allegiances. You got Ares, Hades, Zeus, Poseidon. I'll walk up over here, and when I come to Ares makes a plea for me. Once you select a god, you'll actually get whatever weapon is best for them. So like for Ares, it's the sword. For Hades, it's the hammer. Zeus is the gauntlet. Poseidon is the spear. You start seeing the light, and when you interact with it, that's when this guy appears. From this normal tutorial, he's just asking me to do quick attacks on him. Then after you go through the quick attack things, hey, do heavy attacks. There's certain things that we need to teach you in a way that's directly related to the game. So take, for instance, like how it told me to do my L2 and my L2 to escape. And that's very key because that gets you out of like a lot of situations. And then once you actually beat them, you know, you get the praise from the gods. You're good to go. By that point in time this is done, you should be able to at least do basic fighting.
We really recognized that we needed this after a few play tests, and people didn't know a lot of the moves in the game, and it was too much to absorb at first. So it was like, okay, we really need to have them go through a tutorial level. We'll take this and we will do a bit of a block out where it's a little bit more detail, increase the scale, make it feel a little bit more epic. You know, we added these stairs. You'll see Zeus looking right at you, godly statue, and just run up here. This is the tutorial level running in the game right now. You can see kind of what it would look like. Let's just get a feel for it. This all kind of came last second, but you know, we're behind it. It's gonna be awesome. I'm pretty excited about it.
Excellent.
We're trying to make it as epic and as cool looking as possible. That's kind of the challenge, making sure that there's always something to do for everyone and there's always some cool moment that's a very God of War moment. One of the first levels we started designing was the Troy level. The idea behind that one was because we got the two factions of the Spartans and the Trojans, it made sense to have a map that kind of is based around the war between the two of them. There will be an objective at some point that gives them kind of a big bonus, and that is to fire off a catapult to one position. So the Trojans will be trying to destroy the Trojan horse, and then the Spartans will be trying to destroy the statue of Apollo. This is an overview of the Troy map. Spartans start from the left, Trojans start from the right. There's like 3 tiers basically. The bottom tier, the middle tier, and then the back top tier. And all of those tiers are kind of interconnected, and you can cross over between all of them. The unique thing about this map is that you can use the life cycle, which appears in the single player as well. So you'll see, like, for example, this bridge here, that can collapse away. One of the first things you can do is pick up the life cycle. At the moment it looks like a flag, but we'll actually get it look like a life cycle. And what you can do with that is life cycle different areas in the map. So for example, this gate, I can life cycle it up, and that creates like a barrier no one can get through, but they can actually hack through it eventually, but it'll slow them down. I can bring it down again, of course. Here there's another life cycle thing, so if someone, for example, is chasing me, I can just stop, life cycle that away. If they get killed by it, it counts as a trap, so I get the extra points for it as well. And then one of the bigger life cycle moments is the bridge in the center. So this one is kind of connecting the 2 middle points. You can life cycle like part of it, or you can life cycle the whole thing. Here's angry soldiers, they're throwing the spears at you. Here's another hidden trap, so this flamethrower, I get this view from my side, and I can kind of suddenly attack someone. On their side, they never really see if I'm really behind there. They can only see the flame, but they don't know if someone's actually waiting for them there. As the player with the life cycle, I can actually bring the catapult back to its original kind of position. If I'm the Trojan and I hit it now, it will rotate to the left and fire off something to the Trojan horse, catches on fire, looks cool in the background. You get some points for it. It doesn't end the match, but gives you some favor. We definitely want to encourage the level design to kind of support 2 or more players kind of working together.
Troy is the biggest level we have. It's absolutely massive. You could take 2 large levels from, say, God of War 3, and you could fit them right inside of Troy, and Troy would still be bigger. There's just so much there, and on top of that, we have to have it running with 8 players. That's, I'd say, the biggest challenge. The other challenge among memory and performance is just getting it done.
Troy is fun because I remember seeing the first block model of the game, and it's like this whole city, and so I was going, oh wow, you know, when I'm painting this, it's like, okay, here's the armory, and maybe there's like a garden down there, and this is where people would go to the market and buy stuff. So this was from the level designer, the block model before anything else is existing. It's really fun and challenging to work on top of this because it's so abstract that you're like, okay, what can this be? You know, what can I turn that shape into? So I wanted to show this city that's in ruin, and since it's at night, you know, I wanted the lighting to be really dramatic. The city sort of goes down and it's on fire. And then this is a closer view of one of the areas, just going in and populating it and refining some of the architecture a little bit. And then this was an object in the level that you can grab, and it's our flamethrower. You can get behind it and roast your enemies. These were really fun to design as well.
My favorite part of the level is there's this little section where there's the building kind of in the middle, and there's the flamethrower at the bottom. This is the concept for this building. So originally you enter on the backside because for the gameplay we had to change it. See, the camera is looking this way so they couldn't see. I opened up this wall so you can get in here and you can use the flamethrower.
First blood.
When I set out to create a multiplayer map, it's very similar to the way we create single-player maps. I like to start with one idea, something to hook it into. For one of the maps, the idea was there's a huge Gorgon statue. She's the kind of focal point of this map, and that everything is built kind of around her. And see, the level is kind of built on top of the creature, and then we'll get down in here and I can kind of show you what the space feels like. And here's a flamethrower, so I can kill guys with that. I can jump down below. There's a lot of cool stuff I can pick up, like the club, which I can swing and I can throw it at guys. And just very exciting to run around and be able to manipulate different things in the environment. From here, I can use the cannon, which I can fire, and it will basically, as you can see, kind of mortar everybody down below. And then I can move that actually up to a higher location as well, and then do the same at this top tier. So where you saw guys before that were using the various weapons and using the head, I can surprise them and hit them with the cannon. And then if I jump through the portal, I'm back at the middle. So you can see that it weaves in and out of itself in a balanced way that makes sense. People seem to really like this map, and it's exciting to be able to get it to a place where it feels pretty complete before art goes to it. I think the most rewarding part, next to seeing people play your level and telling you they like it, is certainly getting the art on top of it.
As environment artists on multiplayer, you really do need to keep in mind that the player is the main focus of everything. If people remember from God of War 2, there was a whole level of the bog, and we're kind of bringing that back into Ascension, revisualizing it, making it prettier, and making it more nostalgic for the players. So we fleshed out that we wanted dark tones accented by like gold or bronze. Just looking at the vines happening here, trees and the edge over here for the rocks. There's a lot of roots going on. There's a lot of broken pillars. This is the stuff that really takes the most time. Adding personality to the level, little nicks on the columns, little like cutoffs. This is a pretty important piece. So this would be its own unique texture, whereas this column or these pieces right here, this trim even, it would be tileable so that it would be easier to use throughout the level. I like to start off by kind of getting the shape first. Right now this is smooth, and eventually I'll convert it to actual polys, and this is obviously way too expensive for the level, so we take this and bake it down to the low poly, and it already has all that detail. And as I'm working, I'm gonna keep using these elements that I've established here and eventually bring it up to the other parts of the level that aren't arted yet. It just makes things a lot faster. This level has gone through so much design changes, and I feel like I'm almost pressed up against a wall, sort of. I definitely need to kick it into overdrive now that everything's settled.
This is the Labyrinth. The high concept for it is based off the Labyrinth from God of War 3, so we're trying to bring back some iconic locations from the previous game. How cool would it be to have the players kind of in and inside the Labyrinth while it's being constructed? It's the starting cube where players actually jump out of. The other side, the Trojan side, will have the same setup so they can kind of get into theirs. Both of these cubes meet up together, and then they start kind of rotating around each other, so they change their positions 90 degrees. And then eventually a third cube, the green cube, comes in. The green one and the red one and the blue one kind of lock into place, and then you're moving between all three of them. And then that's when we also bring in the Scorpion. He'll actually kind of come up from the side of the cube and try and attack. That's the basic setup. So this is the intro. Each faction starts on their own side. The cubes lock into place. Then you can actually jump down and you're on the top tier of the cube. Here you can get the pickups, you can set some of the traps, and this is where the domination point is. While you're doing that, the two cubes actually meet up in the middle. Each level has its own trap, so this one, you got your flamethrower there, and you've got like a conveyor belt kind of mechanism that you can use to jump off at different levels of the map. The cubes start rotating, and now they'll meet in the center. So now these have connected, now there's opened up new areas. The hard part designing this level was trying to keep it as simple as possible, but still have the movement and the rotation without confusing players. So that's why you see it's mostly kind of looking at it on a side view. We found that was the easiest way for players to kind of know where they are and where they are in relation to everyone else. So you see in the background, that's the cage where Pandora was in the actual single player. You'll see cubes moving around in the background throughout the game, so things are slowly happening in the background while Kratos is basically assembling the labyrinth in God of War 3. Scorpion should appear as well. There he is. Basically, he's kind of harassing you and protecting that point and trying to swat players off it. The idea is that you'll eventually get favor for hitting his arms or, kind of damaging him and potentially killing him or throwing him off the edge or tearing off his arm and putting it into the grinder or something like that. So
it's like the cubes are moving around, they're sliding in and out. You got to be careful because they move and everybody will get thrown off of it. So like they're these huge titans. And then there's also the scorpion that makes his appearance and comes in there and attacks you while you're on the edge of the cube. So for God of War, people who play God of War 3, it's going to be an awesome level. People who have never played God of War 3, it's going to be awesome for them too.
One of the cool things that we have an opportunity to do in our multiplayer is to give fans new places to play, but also go and revisit older places that they loved from the previous God of Wars. One of the things that we're always trying to do is like, how can we make this aesthetically feel like it was ripped apart? And so one of the things we talked about, maybe the exterior wood of this cube is really dark and damp, but once it's ripped open, all the wood inside is like dry. So that might help sell our story a little bit more. And then what are the main like iconic pieces of these cubes from God of War 3 that people will recognize, and it's like, oh, these like cool clamp sort of doorway pieces, and going in and going, oh yeah, there were all these really cool Icarus kind of murals around, so let's put some of those in. Even though we're not going to go over here, we're going to break some stuff up, we'll put some moving stuff there and really like let the player's imagination fill in the rest and imagine that, this is like this huge mechanical marvel that extends beyond where you can travel. Going more detailed and going to the top. The top is all wood and you have that large clamp, and then maybe the next layer of wood got ripped off, so then we can see more of that refined metal where maybe there's gears and vents inside of that. So we try and put love into everything that we can, and I think that's what makes our game great and really separates it, is how much sort of detail as it funnels down.
Hi, I'm Todd Pappy, Game Director at God of War Ascension. What you're about to see is a making of video that we've been shooting over about 2+ years. It gives you a good idea of the inception of an idea all the way through to the final product. Keep in mind that this is a work in progress. Enjoy.
When we first started talking about it, it was, all right, let's run on some snakes and see what that looks like.
What I was given was there's a python that's wrapped around this entire level.
First reaction about the snake was, this is going to be huge and epic, and it's going to take a lot of work. That's what God of War is big challenges and epic pieces and things like that. These are initial concepts of head designs. For instance, this one's more stylized. This one's a little bit more serpent, dragon-like, and more kind of ancient looking, kind of more mechanical. So I went through lots of variations on scaling patterns. Some of these show a little bit more direction, some are more stylized. Trying to keep the overall feel of Python stripes. And this one's the most finalized version.
It's a mechanical snake. It's the key to getting inside of the temple. We aimed for about 5 pieces that we could string along together to make one complete python. This is our base piece right here. So this is kind of a U-shaped hallway. It's the same thing, but slanted and this is a quarter piece that's cut out. We can rotate this. This can become walking space, climb space, or ceiling climb. So once I had the shapes that I wanted, then I strung them along together. Each color here represents a different shape. And one mechanic that we're going to use is a sliding mechanic. You're controlling them and you have to move side to side and actively avoid falling off while it's moving. I think all the time spent up front and all the planning and everything, thinking through everything on paper helped tremendously.
In our studio, it's the job of the designer to come up with a wild idea that has never been seen before, that is almost unachievable. And it's the artist's job to figure out how can we pull this off? And can we even pull it off? And where can we cut corners and do some tricks? This is the first snake that we have in production. We've been going through a lot of testing of how we can actually manage to build it. And what we ended up coming up with is kind of a color-coded system with different sections of the snake that we would duplicate. Once this is built out by the artist, the tech artist will go in and we create a snake map and it's color-coded. We take this red section, just duplicate it 5 times right there. We'll take the pink section, duplicate it 4 more times. And that's where our ref noting comes in, because we only pay the initial cost in memory for that first time, and then all those other sequential times are basically free. So looking at the exterior, this is our first snake. When you get to the top, you just see how big it is. You know, if we go to a wireframe, we can see actually how much detail that is. It's pretty amazing. I mean, it's almost just like a solid block. We're really pushing the system right here to the limits. I think if I fly back a little bit more, I'm just gonna crash it because it's just too much. There it goes, frozen. So we're right on the edge of pushing what's possible on the PS3.
I've been on Delphi Exterior for around 6 months. I see myself being on it till the end, which would be another 1.5 years. The final ride back, it started off with just me typing up 20 ideas of cool moments that you could have on like a kind of fast-paced ride. It's gonna be the wild ride. Sent it to Todd. And then he just kind of said, okay, I like this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, not this one, not this one, not this one. That's how it started. So this is one of them where it's really rough and probably no one can tell what's going on except me. There's obstacles in the environment, so if you don't move, they brush you off. There's another one that we have where you're sliding and you see it kind of curling and going ahead below you. You get this big jump. A very cool moment that we had. Once Todd was happy with those, I went back to paper and then I took those moments and laid out how I wanted to tie them all together. And I just laid it out in a timeline. I continued and made actual paths, stringing everything together. So once I was happy with one of them, then I took it back to the editor and built it out. Here we have that section where you're brushed off of it and you slide on the environment. You see it twisting below you. You jump and land back on top. The challenge was figuring out a way to have it all make sense. I always imagine something big and grand like it is.
Delphi Exterior is coming together. It's obviously using our Titan tech in a different way that players never seen before, and you know, this is a big wow moment.
This level is like an insane amusement park ride. I mean, you're moving through this thing, and it's really tense. It's really kind of a really stressful level because you're used to these amusement park rides where you're just sort of riding along, but you're like, no, man, you gotta jump, you gotta go, and you gotta do this stuff. What I'm working on right now are these interior ice caves, giant caverns and small little tubes that the snake's burrowing through. I'm working on some of the architecture and also some of these big, giant, massive chains that are helping to propel the snake along. One of the interesting things we have is the technology's height map, where I can layer on the snow in a very realistic way. One of the great things is it can actually sit inside all of the little cracks. Previously, it would just lay on top of it. One of the other interesting things is ice technology. I have this layer of ice that sits on top of the brick, and with this height map tools, you can really make it feel like the ice lays inside the cracks, and I have the ability to add variation to this thing. So here we have the large cavern, and we see these tower, the architecture, and some of the chains that are kind of propelling this snake along.
In Delphi, we now have these giant mechanical snakes that, once Kratos powers up, are just tearing through the environment. You can go in them, you can climb on them or under them, but they're still swaying and undulating. Making good cameras that worked with that undulation was a real challenge. Here's an example of just some of the shots that I'm afforded by being in an outdoor environment where I just want to let the scene speak for itself. This is a really cool area that the artist Eric Jacobson helped put in, where I'd give him the camera's path, and then he put really cool artwork in front of it, these blocks of ice, very much like a cool carnival ride.
A lighting artist basically populates the world and brings it to life. I always consider myself kind of a painter, but I paint with light. I think it's incredibly important. It's kind of the unifying element. It brings the textures and the models and it brings it all together and gives it atmosphere, a mood, and helps tell the story. So you can see all my lights in this file right now, and some of them have really small radiuses, but I can also see them in Maya. So here I have a firelight. If I turn on my radius, you can see the radius, how big it is here. So that's a visual representation. I can make it bigger, so then it'll affect more of the scene. I can make it huge, and it'll affect even more. I always play around a lot with the radius. So see how I bumped up that light now? I can really make it go extreme and really strong. And see, now it's affecting more of the scene. So this is the scene that went through first pass lighting. Here you can see the sunlight and the ambient affecting the scene. If I turn off the sun, the scene would look like this, and all you have is the ambient light. If I turn off the ambient light, it would look like this. And you can see like all the shadows turn completely black and you don't have any information in there. When I do the lighting, I always like seeing the environment artist's reaction. They're like, oh wow, you made my level look awesome.
I love that level. I mean, it took us a long time to get it to the point that it's at right now, but that's because it was new, uncharted grounds. We haven't done that stuff before. I love it, and I've had plenty of people come up to me and say Luis really knocked it out of the park with the art that I've been seeing. I think this will be a huge showcase for the project.